repeat what our uncle said, and just thank everyone for coming today. It means a lot to my father and us as a family. I guess since I was a little child, I always wondered how would I feel when my parents died, and what would I say? And I really still don't know what to say. The key thing that, when I hear about my father, is that he was really hardworking and really determined. And that comment came from everyone, like everyone had a memory of him hardworking or determined. And whether it was fixing people's showers, I can remember bar uncles and running around his house fixing it. And I think comments from friends about him trying to help people save on costs of contracting. And we never got a sense of him feeling it was too much. He never complained. And I know that part of it was him trying to provide for his children so it was an easier life than he had. And I don't know if he really appreciated it, but he really did. He really did work hard, and he always put others before himself, and just tried to provide. And I just don't think he ever worried about buying things for himself or spending on him for himself. And in some ways, I'm really glad in the final years that after retirement, he was able to spend time in Sri Lanka and spend money on doing things that were just fun. So that was really good. So some qualities or some memories. Electronics come to mind. When we grew up, he was an electrical engineer, but I really didn't understand what that meant. Or I could see what was happening at home, and we would always try to have the latest thing, whether it was the latest video camera or the latest thing. And even computers, I used to be fascinated to have a computer, and he provided one. And those two things actually really shaped my future life in ways I didn't know. Computers and videos created career changes beyond degrees and education. And if living on now, I think my wife struggles to understand why there are constantly TVs being coming in and out of the house as I keep upgrading and selling old models on eBay. And maybe part of that all stems from that childhood of my father and electronics. He, in terms of the hard work, I'd also remember the first house I bought, and it was a complete wreck. Basically, sub-uncle and my dad really turned it around in a few months, and he offered to rewire it all, and he worked frantically. But there's always a catch. His catch was you had to use his brand of products. I couldn't buy any cheaper things from Screwfix or Toolstation. No, it had to be MK, it had to be this. And this was a quality he did have. He had this brand loyalty or product things, and he was very determined to sometimes get his way. Academically, my parents never actually really pushed us too heavily. I think they just sort of let us, whatever happens, happens. But my dad did take the lead with trying to teach us, but also getting the balance right. So I remember him teaching my times tables. I can also remember once when my sister was learning about magnets, and she was 5 years older than me, and I ran off and got a library book on it and learned all about it so I could join in. And actually told me off, oh, look, this is too ahead of what I need to know at this age. So he had this balance there also about just letting us be children as well. And thinking of that family life, I'd extend it to his family. I always remember Christmases at the Yokodover family with the only one who seemed to have a real Christmas tree, from all I remember. And then Christmases at Rajadover, where I could always remember Auntie and her mutton curries, and that was before I became vegetarian, but I remember those memories too. So it was the extension of just not just him, but his family around him. He didn't necessarily, it didn't necessarily always give us praise on things, but there's one moment that I do remember. It was after our dance surrogating I did with my sister. I mean, it cost a lot of money, and I know that my mum and dad put a lot of money into it. And I know my dad was wondering, is it really worth it? I'll never forget the night after the performance when our house was full of musicians and guests, and literally the only place we could sleep was on the floor in the lounge. And he literally turned to me and said, "That was worth every penny." Going back to the academic, there's one comment I'd never really understood. Whenever he used to ask questions, so like my daughters now kept saying, "Why, Daddy, why does this work like this?" and stuff. He would always come up with the famous line at the end, "Well, when the dog barks, you'll get the answer." I have no idea where this dog is. But I've decided to copy it when my own kids say the same thing. And he did do the little things. He would make me, always try to make porridge in the morning, clean my shoes, and generally, he was never. I actually generally do not think he was scared of anything. I can't remember anything that he was scared to do, or he was always open to new experiences. And as a family, we just did things and went on holidays, and we enjoyed doing things. Then the last thing I would also remember is, in terms of quality, is really he's the opposite in terms of me, and to the extent that he was a total declutterer. Everything in the house, and it had to have a purpose, had to be working, otherwise it was out the next day. I can still remember when I got my first job and I bought these like table heaters, brand new. You put these like little tea-light candles in. I thought, wow, that looks really good, and they were cast iron. Within a day, they'd gone, and that was his view. And I'm going to come back to that because I think that's also how his view was on life and at the end of his life. So if I now think about the last couple of months, so definitely things over the last few years, as he spent more time in Sri Lanka, we have drifted. And it started with a phone call to him and thinking that he's quite confused or not sure what's going on. Didn't really know whether he wanted to stay in Sri Lanka or whether he wanted to come back. So flew out there. And it felt like now the roles were reversing and he was becoming the child and I was becoming the parent. And I have to say a few things that really helped him have the final stage. My cousin, Russ and things, gave me a lot of support when I was out there. And I can still remember the phone call back to RT, my wife, and my mum saying, "I think we should bring him back and this is going to be difficult." And they gave the full support for me to bring him back, which made it easier. And then integrating into our family, I really had to thank my kids for giving up their bathrooms and rooms and space to really make him have some time with us as a family. And during the hospital time, the family and things have really supported him with visits and time, and I think really made him feel there were people with him in that final stages. And I would also like to thank, I guess, in that process, the people that kept us sane. My auntie for just constantly being there to the end of the night to help my mum. We'll never forget that. And even Arnie, when we were having WhatsApp messages on a very difficult day, was something I'll really, really thank. And I think even the preparation and the help for like last night, so my uncle Sid Palmer Buffalo just literally sorting out the house. And I think these are all people that I don't really understand, life and what's meant to happen. But I think what I would say, if I could sort of try and put my piece on life is, well, I've cried at the beginning. I'm not too sad because I kind of view that if you have a slow death as a person, it's good for the family, bad for the person. If you have a sudden death, it's good for the person, not so great for the family. And this time, it gave us a couple of months to really understand each other. It was a bloody experience as a son from the moment I got there to Sri Lanka. And in the deep conversations we did have, he really did not feel. He knew that his mind wasn't working fully. He knew he was broken. And a bit like his whole life, when he saw what is the purpose, do you fix it, do you chuck it up, he really saw no logic of repairing fixes it. What's the point? But quite gladly, he said, look, I really have achieved everything I wanted in life. I've done all I need to do. It's time for me to go. So I think really on that note, I think we are here to celebrate it, but there probably isn't, he's lived his life at the end the way that he always lived it. And he has had some good some really good times when he's achieved what he wants to achieve. And I think ultimately, maybe the reason I struggled to think what I was going to say is because I was literally thinking, if someone's so integral to your life, like your parents, it's like trying to talk about yourself. You can't detach it. It's all one blur, because you are basically part of them. And I see that he always live on. He's set up. If he came here with nothing in the bag, he has set up my generation, and he's helping me to set up my next generation. And for all of that, I really appreciate it, and I'm really grateful.